Welcome to Securing America with me, Frank Gaffney, the program that's a kind of owner's manual for protecting the country we love against all enemies, foreign and domestic, to the glory of God and His kingdom. We're going to be talking about several topics of great importance, perhaps the most important of those being what will be going on as we speak shortly between President Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel. Before we get to a serious conversation about all of that, I want to give you a little bit of background of my own. President Trump says Iran wants a deal. It would be more accurate to say Iran wants to negotiate about a deal. The difference is, as Mark Twain put it, between lightning and a lightning bug. Iran's Sharia supremacist regime has used decades of such negotiations, ostensibly aimed at denuclearizing the country, to buy time to continue its nuclear weapons program, its buildup of various missiles with which to deliver them across the Middle East and even here, and its enabling of jihadist terrorism worldwide. Mr. Trump insists he'll address all those threats in these negotiations, but the Ayatollahs have a culture of haggling in the bazaar and hope to run the clock out on his military options. Memo to the President. Give peace a chance. The only way it can possibly eventuate, namely by doing deals with the liberated people of Iran after this regime is gone. Those are my thoughts. For more of them, follow me at X at Frank Gaffney and also at usfuture.org, the webpage of the Institute for the American Future, of which I'm proud to be the president and which makes this program possible. Please consider donating at the donate button at usfuture.org. We're going to turn first and foremost to our friend Jonathan Tobin, the editor-in-chief of a tremendously important news outlet. It's called the Jewish News Syndicate, also known as JNS. Jonathan is a highly acclaimed essayist, columnist, editorialist, and journalist, and a very, very astute observer of what is going on the ground and in the strategic environment, both in the Middle East and, of course, here in the United States as well. Jonathan, it's so good to have you with us. Thank you for taking a few minutes to join us this morning.
Always good to be with you, Frank. Thank you.
I have to talk to you about Iran. Jonathan, you and I have discussed this at length over the years. It seems as though, like Lucy and the proverbial football, we've witnessed one president after another being persuaded that there's a deal to be had with the Ayatollahs, and if only they're patient, if only they allow these things to be strung along, if only, there will be peace in our time. What do you make of what's going on at the moment, sir? And specifically, if you would, what do you think Benjamin Netanyahu is saying to President Trump in these talks today?
Well, first, I won't deny that it's concerning that the Trump administration is talking so much about talking with Iran, because as you said, that's a dead end. That's playing the mullah's game. Their only purpose in negotiating is to, run out the clock, as they did so well with Obama and Biden. The United States will get no satisfaction from any such negotiation. Any deal that is signed will never be kept by Iran. It's just totally a trap. I will say this, though. Donald Trump is not Barack Obama or Joe Biden. He's not perfect. There are plenty of things we could talk about and criticize him for. Lots of people don't like him. But the one thing he's not is a fool for Iran. He's been pretty solid on this issue all along. He's had his head, screwed on straight when it comes to understanding what the Iranians are up to. He has a track record here. He has a track record of using force against Iran when necessary, whether it's taking out Soleimani, the head of their terrorist group, the IRGC, or joining with Israel to take out their nuclear program last summer. So he's entitled to some trust on this. I'm not saying I'm sure that it's all going to turn out well and that he's not going to fall for it. But, I think my presumption is that he is using this time to prepare for what he wants to do, not to play the Iranians' game. Now, as for what Prime Minister Netanyahu is going to say to him in the meetings this week, Well, I can't, I can't give you a transcript. I don't know exactly how that's going to go. But I do know that the spin from the New York Times and liberal media here in the United States, as well as the liberal media in Israel, is largely wrong. They're all claiming that Netanyahu is in a panic and that his trip to Washington this week, when he was scheduled to go in a couple of weeks from now, that was an already scheduled trip, that it's to try to plead with Trump not to, do a deal with Iran, not to betray Israel. They're always quick to say that there's a split between the U.S. and Israel, both the liberal media in both countries. I don't think that's true at all. I think they're going to coordinate and plan. And I think they're probably very much on the same page. I don't assume that that Trump is is abandoning Israel and embracing Iran or falling for some Iranian trick. I think they're both preparing to deal with the next phase of a conflict with Iran that has been going on, whether America knew it or not, since the Islamist Revolution in 1979. And I'm confident that that they're on the same page, and the Iranians are the ones who should be worried, not us.
From your lips to God's ears, my friend, as they say. I would just stipulate that what Donald Trump has done in this period of time over the past few months is he has put forces into place that give him an option to do what he has done before, as you say, quite commendably, namely whacking the mullahs rather than playing their game. That said, one of my concerns is, having spent some time in the Pentagon, is those options don't endure very long. At some point you have to move those forces back to their main operating bases or, replace them with other forces. And this is where the game is so insidious that the Ayatollahs are quite skilled at playing, namely trying to drag things out, trying to buy time, as we both have said. I pray that the president is going to make it very clear that there's a short window for them to do something. But honestly, like you, Jonathan, I'm concerned that the doing something, even if it were to, make all kinds of new promises about not just the nuclear program, which is supposed to have been destroyed, but isn't, unfortunately, at least in part, not just the ballistic missiles and not just the, support for the other jihadists around the region and beyond, but, essentially a going out of business deal. That's what I think is really needed here. So just in closing on this subject, what do you think the timing is likely to be? Are you as concerned as I am that the clock is really running here?
Well, sure. I mean, this is a very delicate thing. Trump is also trying to thread a very narrow needle. He wants to, I believe, that he is number one. Let's say, if you listen to what Steve Witkoff says, somebody who's been in Qatar's pocket. If you listen to what his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, says, you could be very, very worried about what the United States is going to do in the Middle East. But Trump is in charge, not them. And that's been reflected in his policies during both of his terms as president. But time is of the essence. And what Trump wants to do is kind of a very delicate kind of thing. He wants to destroy Iran's capabilities, force them to give up not only nukes, but missiles and terrorism. And he'd like to get them out. He'd like to topple that regime, but he does not want to commit U.S. forces to a prolonged war, even a prolonged air campaign. And Israel doesn't have the capability to do a prolonged air campaign. It can do a fairly short one. So,
Jonathan, we have
something's about to happen.
Right back with more with Jonathan Tobin of JNS News. Stand by.
Welcome to Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Your quick look at the powerful stories of faith and freedom, inspiring audiences across the nation. Angel Studios presents.
I'm Bo Davidson with this Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Most people know the biblical story of David, the shepherd boy who fought Goliath and became king. Well, Angel Studios has created a new animated film called David that tells the story of Israel's greatest king.
There's a light I've always followed when I'm looking for the way, when I'm searching for the answer, in the moments I'm afraid. There's a whisper in the wind, and a story in the sky, when I'm looking for a lantern to illuminate the night. If you want the secret of freedom and feeling alive, you gotta follow the light. Follow the light.
For those who love great animated classics like The Lion King and Prince of Egypt, David is an awe-inspiring animated musical that depicts David as a spirited boy who fought lions, giants, and even betrayal, depicting how one boy's faith could lead him to be king of Israel. David will be released in theaters just in time for Christmas on December 19th, but your family can get a head start by watching the prequel to the film, Young David, which is streaming exclusively right now on Angel. It's perfect for the entire family and has memorable music. So once you join the Angel Guild, you can start watching Young David right now and prepare the fam for the David film in theaters in December. And by joining the Guild, you'll guarantee 2 free tickets to see it. And it's a great value. Let's be honest, going to the movies isn't all that cheap. But if you're a member of the Angel Guild, not only do you get those 2 free tickets to David, but you'll now have access to every single film or TV series on Angel at your convenience anytime. So just go to angel.com/Rav and join there.
Welcome to Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Your quick look at the powerful stories of faith and freedom, inspiring audiences across the nation. Angel Studios presents.
I'm Bo Davidson with your Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Did you ever wonder what truly happened in the COVID-19 pandemic and whether
We're back, as so is Jonathan Tobin, the editor-in-chief of the Jewish News Syndicate, JNS. And we've been talking about Iran. I want to move the focus for this part of the program, Jonathan, to Israel proper and its immediate environs. That would mean talking about what the Netanyahu government has just done, interestingly enough, on his way to Washington, with respect to another festering sore, namely what the Palestinians have been doing on what is these days known as the West Bank, what is historically and correctly described as Judea and Samaria. Give us a little bit of the sense of what's happening on the ground there at the moment and now what Israel has done in response.
Well, the situation is, as it has been since 1967, anomalous, and again since 1993, when the Palestinian Authority was created to autonomously govern the lives of almost all the Palestinians in Judea and Samaria. It's a corrupt, terror-supporting government, but it's not in active war with Israel, and there's some security cooperation between Israel and the Palestinian Authority. It's kind of their
some
frenemies.
The operative word.
Some. This is an area where hundreds of thousands of Jews live, as is their right, I would insist, under international law, despite what you would read in the liberal media and what the UN says. Israel currently recently did a move making it easier for Jews to buy land in that area. Palestinians should be free to sell, and Jews should be free to buy or sell. There's nothing particularly sinister about that, except for the fact that the international community thinks that Jews have no right to live in the heart of their ancient homeland. And that's not the position of the Israeli government. They're not, quote unquote, annexing Judea and Samaria. But there are areas where, known as, under the Oslo agreements, Area C, which is where the Jewish communities already exist. And this recent move will make it easier for land to be purchased to expand those communities. It's not building new communities, it's just expanding them. So it's made, if you read the New York Times, it can seem like a big deal, but it really isn't such a big deal. It's not going to change the status of these areas. It's not going to really move the needle one way or another, whether, peace, which is totally theoretical and won't happen, will occur. It's really a matter of just kind of more housekeeping. I don't think this is going to be what, a major source of contention between the United States and Israel. If Netanyahu and Trump are going to talk about anything about Iran, it's going to be about Gaza. And I think that's, where we should kind of be more focused.
Right, well, let's pivot to that. I just do want to say, if this is not, in fact, annexation by another name, the PR operation in Israel needs to be upgunned a little bit.
You've just noticed that they're not very good at PR.
It does seem that way, doesn't it? Yeah. But I also just wanted to say that you kind of glossed over what is a very serious, I think, security situation that is emerging there, and why I emphasize that point about some cooperation with the Palestinian Authority. That cooperation seems to be mostly
let me go back then and say
the security forces we've been training there operating as part of a sort of terrorist front, no?
Yeah, the PA's forces are not reliable, just as the government of the PA is not reliable.
Exactly.
The wild
and again,
card
that's
there
putting
is
it charitably, my friend.
Yes,
I think it's reliably not helpful in both cases.
The wild card in Judea and Samaria is Hamas. Hamas operates in Judea and Samaria. They hate, they're the enemies of Fatah, which is the PA, the Palestinian Authority. Obviously, they're the enemies of Israel. And they have failed since the October 7th war began to create another front, but they're there. They're always a threat. What security cooperation between the PA and Israel that exists is against Hamas. But it hasn't, but it is a real worry that Hamas could, now that it's been really cut back in Gaza, although by no means dead, and that's a major source of contention, that Hamas might try to revive itself in Judea and Samaria. And that is what Israel's security focus. And part of that focus is strengthening the Jewish communities there and their security, and making sure they're not vulnerable. I think you have to view every move that Israel makes, even though the PR is often bad and they don't really do things, it's sort of, that's sort of the psyche of Israelis. They don't think a lot about what other people think about them, which is not good for the PR of the country. They're focused on security and the security of those communities and making sure they're not more vulnerable. And the truth is, although we hear in the liberal media that there is settler violence, quote unquote, settler violence against Palestinians, which does happen sometimes, but basically terrorism against Jews in Judea and Samaria is an everyday thing of one form or another, whether it's rock throwing or stabbing attacks. And that is, anything that Israel does in the territories is probably more oriented towards security than some theoretical debate about sovereignty that, just isn't, there isn't going to be a Palestinian state there, and Israel will will maintain the anomalous situation there because that's what the United States wants.
You've teed up nicely a closing comment, if you would, on why Hamas must be thoroughly defeated and removed, because it is a cancer. It is continuing to metastasize, I'm afraid, in Gaza, but also has the potential very much to do the same in the Judea and Samarian areas. Talk to us quickly, Jonathan, about the state of play with respect to Gaza. We've been told about this Board of Peace and the new technocratic government that's been installed in Gaza and so on. What's the lay of the land there as you see it, sir, very quickly?
It's, listen, the proposal that's now on the table for a disarmament of Hamas, who, quote unquote, get rid of their heavy weapons, but let them keep their personal arms. Listen, nobody's serious nobody who's seriously concerned about the war against Hamas thinks that's an actual solution. That just leaves Hamas in place. There's no way to police that. Their main weapon is not, artillery. It's their tunnel system. And until the tunnel system is dismantled, and they've been rebuilding, they used international aid to build the New York City subway system under Gaza. Much of that is still intact in the part of Gaza they still control. If you want to disarm Gaza, you've got to get rid of those tunnels. Again, Witkoff and Kushner are pushing along with their Qatari friends for some sort of deal with Hamas that Israel will never accept, and that goes against everything that Donald Trump has promised. And again, this is a question, is Trump going to keep his word? Is he going to hold the line against those who want to appease terrorists and Islamists? We have to hope that that is the case, and that the counsels of wisdom prevail against those who are pushing for basically just kicking the can down the road and preparing for another war against Hamas, because Hamas has to be destroyed, because its only purpose is to wage war against the West and in the short term against Israel, and to push for genocide of Israel and its population. As long as they're alive, the war will continue. There's no peace with Hamas. And anybody who doesn't understand that doesn't understand the Middle East.
Well, I thank you so much for putting it so starkly, Jonathan. It is a war against the West. It is the Muslim Brotherhood's franchise's purpose most immediately to destroy the proximate element of the West, of course, Israel. But it makes no secret of its intention, as do all jihadists of the Sunni as well as the Shiite stripes, that destroying Western civilization is the ultimate responsibility of those who would subscribe to Sharia. And they are pursuing it relentlessly, and they will continue to do so. And this is why our Victory Coalition in particular at the Institute for the American Future has made a point of saying we must have a decisive victory. Jonathan, we have to let you go. God bless you, my friend. Keep up the great work you do at JNS, and come back to us soon if you would.
Thank you, Frank.
Be right back, folks.
It's freedom to speak your mind, freedom to protest policies you don't like, freedom to start a business, freedom to own property, freedom to vote, freedom to flourish. It's easy to take these things for granted, but for many people around the world, freedom is merely a dream, and those who fight for it risk losing everything: their reputations, their livelihoods, even their lives. Scan the QR code now or visit atlasnetwork.org/rev today to help freedom become a reality for people fighting back against authoritarianism. With your gift of just $19 a month, we'll send you an exclusive Atlas Network hat. Plus, we'll send the print edition of our Freedom's Champion magazine to your door. Atlas Network was founded to help pro-freedom organizations around the world develop, implement, and defend policies that foster freedom against tyranny. Visit atlasnetwork.org/rev or scan the QR code now to help us make freedom a reality for millions of people around the world. Donate $19 a month to receive your exclusive hat. Through every storm, every moment of uncertainty,
everybody needs to pray for Charlie Kirk right now.
Rev has stood strong.
We're not going to tolerate this stuff anymore.
Turn that anger into motivation to save this nation.
When we move together, there is power.
The cries of this widow will echo like a battle cry.
This is more than news. It's a movement.
This revolution of people taking their countries back.
A turning point. A chance to be part of something greater than yourself. Scan the QR code and stand with Rev. The story isn't over, and neither is your part in it. Step in. Be counted. Be heard. Together, we are Rev.
We will achieve American greatness. And we are just getting started.
Hi, this is Becky from the Florida Panhandle, and I love watching Real America's Voice for the programming, the hosts, and my Rad Chat family.
I'm Terry from New Jersey, And I just want to say that I love Real America's Voice. I love you guys. Keep up the good work.
We're back, and I am delighted to say we are joined for the first time with a man that I've come to know and greatly admire, both for what he has done previously and what he's doing right now. His name is Ammon Blair. He is a senior fellow at the Texas Public Policy Foundation, a formidable organization in Austin, Texas. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the work that he's about there, including a very important program that the foundation sponsored just yesterday. But he's also a man of considerable experience and service to our country, notably for some 20 years in the United States Army, serving in the infantry in places like Iraq, where he encountered, up close and personal, as they say, Sharia supremacism, and fought it the old-fashioned way. He is also a veteran of 10 and a half years of service on the Border Patrol, so he's witnessed what enemies, foreign and domestic, are doing to this country, and is one of, I think, our country's foremost experts on this whole set of challenges to our national security and our population. I'm delighted to have him with us. As I say, for the first time, we are collaborating on a campaign to try to save Texas and save America from the threat posed by Sharia, particularly right this minute in the state of Texas, where, as we've been discussing and will a bit further with Rick Green momentarily, a very important proposition is on the Republican primary ballot. Ammon, thank you so much for taking some time to visit with us. It is a pleasure to have you to talk about both something you were doing yesterday in your own organization and something that was also very important that took place on Capitol Hill. Welcome.
Oh, man, thank you so much for having me and for that wonderful intro.
Well, it's I think, all true and certainly deserves commendation. So let's start with the program that you did at TPPF, as it's known. You had some of our friends involved, and of course, I think are rendering, as usual, a very important service to the state, including its governor and its legislature.
Yeah, yesterday we formally came out at Texas Public Policy Foundation and our stance against Islamic movements that are seeking to thwart our Constitution and the liberties found within our communities, as well as the liberties that are found within their own communities against their own those that are found within their own religion, whether that is in terms of seeking to thwart their own freedoms and liberties, such as whether that's in marriage or whether that is in how they see or view the whole idea and concept of what a woman is, whether that's for property or whatnot. And so we at the Texas Public Policy Foundation are hosted the event yesterday to discuss like the threat makeup, what organizations actually exist in the state of Texas. Now, this came up after our governor came out and declared the Muslim Brotherhood as well as CARIST as foreign terrorist organizations, and then that led to, of course, the State Department and the Trump administration doing the same thing, where they focus specifically on three factions of the Muslim Brotherhood, and so we brought in the Middle East Forum, Sam from the Middle East Forum, to discuss Sam West Forum, to discuss more or less actually greater threats than the Muslim Brotherhood that exist inside of Texas. And that Texas actually is a headquarters for a few of them. It's not in the Middle East. It's here residing in Texas. And so he wanted to make that very clear. And so to discuss how large they are, the capital that they have, and that how before it used to be where they were funded outside and then brought into the U.S., whether that's through Saudi oil or what have you. But now, because they are so prevalent inside the United States and so wealthy, that they're actually sending their money to the organizations in the Middle East or in South Asia and other organizations. And so that's what he wanted to make clear as well, is that the organizations from South Asia are actually a greater threat than the ones that we think of in terms of like Muslim Brotherhood from the Middle East. And so in my part, what I was asked to do is I was asked to link that towards border security. How did they get here? To kind of go back in history on how Islam infiltrated the Western Hemisphere, and now that we have the Monroe Doctrine 2.0, how the Trump administration is seeking to go after every one of those threats to the United States throughout the Western Hemisphere. So I brought it back and I just showed what happened in Argentina with the bombing there that took place, the Hezbollah, the tri-border area region in that area, how the Department of Defense for decades has talked about this threat, and that how in 2010 there was actually a war game effort at Johns Hopkins University, sponsored by Special Operations Command and the Asymmetric Warfare Group, to counter Hezbollah in the Western Hemisphere. And then a few years later, General John Kelly, who is now the Southcom commander, came out and stated in Congress and testified, stating, hey, Islam is working directly with the Mexican cartels and has been for quite some time, and they have satellite sites. And the southern border is open, and which is a superhighway. So I showed why it is open, how it's a superhighway. I discussed that ever since the late 80s and early 90s, when if your audience knows that Mexico used to be under one-party rule, it was under the PRI. And when they started losing power at the subnational level, that's when the cartels decided to take it upon themselves and become an insurgency. Well, that insurgency led to terrorism when it was our Green Berets and Special Operations Command that trained a lot of them, and then they became the Zetas, if you guys remember the Zetas. And so that transformed them into foreign terrorist organizations, and then later on, because we continued to view them only as criminal elements, they became parallel in governance to Mexico, and now they are in the symbiotic relationship, both at the subnational to the national level. But during that time period when that was happening, if you remember, the cocaine trade shifted from the Caribbean to Mexico. And so they needed to build a belt, like their own version of Belt and Road Initiative, into the United States to our communities, just like what the CCP does. And so that's what they did. The cartels built a Silk Road, to every single one of our areas. Now, when in terms of supply chain, like stash houses, in terms of personnel, in terms of resources, in terms of actual governance and control of regions through diasporas of immigrants throughout the United States. Now, when they did that, they've now created one of their greatest assets they can sell to our enemies, and that is access to us, each and every one of us.
Yes. Access to us and subversion of us as a result. Before we run out of time, I'm so interested in what you were doing with this program, and we're going to have you back to talk about it at greater length, if we may, Amin. But I also wanted just to have you give us a quick appreciation of what Congressman Chip Roy from the state of Texas, the chairman of the House Judiciary Subcommittee on the Constitution, did with a hearing also yesterday.
Yeah, great question. So we work with many congressmen and women, and specifically we work very well with Congressman Chip Roy. He actually used to work with us here at Texas Policy Foundation at our 10th Amendment Center here. And so we work hand in hand with them, and we are also working hand in hand with exactly what they did with also Congressman Self, as they are leading the Sharia-Free Caucus, where they're looking at ways the movements found within Islam, whether that is jihad or civilization jihad, like what the Muslim Brotherhood and other organizations seek to have, and toward by infiltrating our institutions, not just through kinetic warfare like what jihad wants to do, but civilizationally. And so they hosted Robert Spencer, who is a foremost expert on this topic, as well as others to discuss. And also, I forget her name, but she's from the Rare Foundation, works with Amy Meck. And so they were there to testify on how these organizations infiltrate every single facet of our society, to subvert every form of our society, and also to completely replace it with Sharia law or Islamic law. In their mindset, based off of the Quran and also Islamic law, if you adhere to certain passages of it, then it shows that Allah is supreme even to civic society or civic order, meaning if you are inside the United States, it is supreme to the Constitution. And so in their eyes, they're looking at ways and means to completely subvert and overthrow our constitutional order.
Yeah. And I'm fond of pointing out that this makes Sharia not just unconstitutional, but really anti-constitution as well. And we've been talking about it with Rick Green here shortly. That is totally unacceptable. It must be rejected, and in fact, must be banned, which is, of course, what we are very pleased to be working with the Texas Public Policy Foundation, your good self, and others there to accomplish with this campaign. We call it the Save Texas, Save America campaign. People,
100%. I would also suggest
if you're in the state of Texas, get engaged in this. BanSharia.com. We have to leave it at that, my friend. Amin, come back soon if you would. God bless you and keep up the great work. We'll be right back with more. Stay tuned, folks.
Freedom to speak your mind, freedom to protest policies you don't like, freedom to start a business, freedom to own property, freedom to vote, freedom to flourish. It's easy to take these things for granted, but for many people around the world, freedom is merely a dream, and those who fight for it risk losing everything: their reputations, their livelihoods, even their lives. Scan the QR code now or visit atlasnetwork.org/rev today to help freedom become a reality for people fighting back against authoritarianism. With your gift of just $19 a month, we'll send you an exclusive Atlas Network hat. Plus, we'll send the print edition of our Freedom's Champion magazine to your door. Atlas Network was founded to help pro-freedom organizations around the world develop, implement, and defend policies that foster freedom against tyranny. Visit atlasnetwork.org/rev or scan the QR code now to help us make freedom a reality for millions of people around the world. Donate $19 a month to receive your exclusive hat. Through every storm, every moment of uncertainty,
everybody needs to pray for Charlie Kirk right now.
Rev has stood strong.
We're not going to tolerate this stuff anymore.
Turn that anger into motivation to save this nation.
When we move together, there is power.
The cries of this widow will echo like a battle cry.
This is more than news. It's a movement.
This revolution of people taking their countries back.
A turning point. A chance to be part of something greater than yourself. Scan the QR code and stand with Rev. The story isn't over, and neither is your part in it. Step in. Be counted. Be heard. Together, we are Rev.
We will achieve American greatness. And we are just getting started.
Hi, this is Becky from the Florida Panhandle, and I love watching Real America's Voice for the programming, the hosts, and my Rad Chat family.
I'm Terry from New Jersey, and I just want to say that I love Real America's Voice. I love you guys. Keep up the good work.
We're back, and I failed to note that we are, of course, on the road, evidently. We are actually at the Patriot Academy. I am sitting in the hot seat of the man who is the founder and president of the operation, a man who is also the host from this seat of radio and podcasting and so much more. His name is Rick Green. He is a former state legislator in this great state of Texas. He is also an ordained minister. But what he is doing that is of absolutely surpassing importance is he is passing on to the next generation the knowledge and the convictions and the leadership capabilities that are so desperately needed in a time such as this. We had the privilege of being together last night in a program that Rick put on here at the Patriot Academy outside of Fredericksburg, Texas. And it was an amazing program, and I wanted to have him on to talk a bit about it, as well as the topic that we covered in its course, and not least what he and a team of what he calls Constitution coaches are doing at this very moment to try to help. Well, what I say immodestly is nothing short of saving Texas and thereby saving America. Rick, thank you for your hospitality. Thank you for all that you do with this wonderful institution. Thank you for our national security partnership as well.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And by the way, you make my studio look better than I do. So I'm glad you're there. I'm up in the Abraham Lincoln Committee Room at the Patriot Academy campus. So anyway, thrilled to have you. And last night was phenomenal. Thank you for making that happen. You could see the eyes lighting up. Yeah, there were so many people that knew nothing about the challenges we face, and you could just tell they were learning so much. So it was a very successful event.
Talk a little bit about what the challenges we are facing are, particularly here in this state of Texas at this very moment.
Yeah, I think, look, the petri dish where bad government grows is civic ignorance. Ronald Reagan, your old boss, warned us about that a long time ago. And not knowing our rights, not knowing the Constitution, we have fallen into this really warped view of freedom of religion where we think, oh, you got to let everybody do anything and everything that they want as long as they call it a religion. And therefore, we can't stop these evil ideologies that are now taking over Europe and Australia and everywhere else. And so I think the first challenge is literally just education of our people to know what we can and can't do in a constitutional republic. Otherwise, we are very weak and vulnerable to those who wish to conquer us.
This is so important, Rick, and your clarity on this, which has characterized your entire career. I first came across you, I think, at the Leadership Institute in Washington, D.C., where you were at the time an aspiring candidate to be in the House of Representatives in this state. You served with great distinction there, but you've, as I say, carried the torch on now. And I think it's of surpassing importance that, as you say, people have the benefit of the kind of education that you're doing day in and day out here at the Patriot Academy and the Patriot Institute as well. Talk just a little bit about the need for that education, especially when it comes to this question of, is what I think of as Sharia supremacism a religion, in fact? Or is it, as you've just suggested, actually a not just toxic, but I would go so far as to say demonic ideology?
Yeah, and it actually does exactly what the Supreme Court has said we would not allow, which is, quote, subvert the public good. I mean, that phrase right there really summarizes the danger that we're facing and why we do, in fact, have the constitutional authority and, frankly, responsibility to prevent such an ideology from taking root in our country. And, we started with
Could I just ask you, just hold on that one thought, because it's so critical to this. The last time I checked, kind of a centerpiece of the Constitution, not one of the, Bill of Rights amendments or anything else, central to it, Article 6 says something about there being another ideology or another set of laws governing in our country. Could you remind us what that provision is?
Wait, you're talking about the Supremacy Clause, or?
Yes, the Supremacy Clause of the Constitution of the United States.
Yeah, and think about it. If you have a Sharia court that rules in Dallas, Texas, I mean, hypothetically, of course, yeah, it's happening now. And they decide that they will have their own set of rules and laws. And we come in and say, well, no, constitutionally, we know that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, notwithstanding anything that's done, even by a state legislature or a local government, let alone a Sharia court that is not recognized by our laws in the state of Texas or the Constitution, then the Constitution is supreme and overrules that. These people do not, as you know well, they do not care what our traditions are or what we think is right or wrong. They absolutely have proven in Europe and Australia that they can play the game. They can use our words to completely subvert everything that we're about and that we're for. And I'm watching it happen in my own state of Texas, Frank, and that's why I'm thankful you're here to help us reverse that trend. But it's got to start with us teaching people these things about the Constitution, teaching them what Joseph Story, one of the fathers of American jurisprudence, said about what we mean when we say freedom of religion, what James Madison said at the Constitutional Convention. If we can get back to those basics, we'll have a better understanding of what we're fighting for and sort of what the boundaries are. Right now, there's no boundaries. It's anything goes, everything's okay.
You know, Rick, I can't remember who said it last night, but it might well have been you. But there was a quote from Dwight Eisenhower to the effect that you cannot use our Bill of Rights to subvert our freedoms. Our Bill of Rights guaranteed freedoms. Could you just speak to that very quickly? We've got about a minute to go.
I think it was Bill Federer, if I remember right, that he quoted Eisenhower saying you can't hide under the shadow of the Bill of Rights to destroy the Bill of Rights. And then we brought it closer specifically to freedom of religion, to claim freedom of religion under the First Amendment, to then take away everyone else's freedom of religion under the First Amendment. We've got to be smart enough to this is not even chess, Frank. It's checkers, and we're still failing at being able to respond to that. So it does start with education. Yeah, go ahead.
Hold that thought, sir. We're going to have to speak about, so what do we do about all this on the other side of this very short break? And you're central to the answer. God bless you. You'll be right back.
Freedom to speak your mind, freedom to protest policies you don't like, freedom to start a business, freedom to own property, freedom to vote, freedom to flourish. It's easy to take these things for granted, but for many people around the world, freedom is merely a dream, and those who fight for it risk losing everything, their reputations, their livelihoods, even their lives. Scan the QR code now or visit atlasnetwork.org/rev today to help freedom become a reality for people fighting back against authoritarianism. With your gift of just $19 a month, we'll send you an exclusive Atlas Network hat. Plus, we'll send the print edition of our Freedom's Champion magazine to your door. Atlas Network was founded to help pro-freedom organizations around the world develop, implement, and defend policies that foster freedom against tyranny. Visit atlasnetwork.org/rev or scan the QR code now to help us make freedom a reality for millions of people around the world. Donate $19 a month to receive your exclusive hat. Through every storm, every moment of uncertainty,
everybody needs to pray for Charlie Kirk right now.
Rev has stood strong.
We're not going to tolerate this stuff anymore.
Turn that anger into motivation to save this nation.
When we move together, there is power.
The cries of this widow will echo like a battle cry.
This is more than news. It's a movement.
This revolution of people taking their countries back.
A turning point. A chance to be part of something greater than yourself. Scan the QR code and stand with Rev. The story isn't over, and neither is your part in it. Step in. Be counted. Be heard. Together, we are Rev.
We will achieve American greatness. And and we are just...
We're back, and so is Rick Green, the founder and president of a tremendously important organization, the Patriot Academy. It teaches people about our Constitution, among other things, how to defend it, both in the old-fashioned sense of Second Amendment rights, but also in terms of practice of our constitutional guaranteed rights. Rick, you were talking about a campaign that we have brought to Texas. Not brought to Texas, we're helping foster here in Texas. Let me put it that way. I've come to Texas for the purpose, as has our friend Steve Bannon, of course, for this month to try to see what we can do to assist the people here, among them your good self and the people that you have done so much to equip for this moment, about protecting, or if you will, saving Texas from Sharia supremacism. And on the ballot here on March 3rd, in the Republican primary, is a proposition number 10 that has all of 5 words to it. Texas should prohibit Sharia law. And you are among those who have pulled in behind what we call our Save Texas, Save America campaign. People can find out all about it at bansharia.com. But I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk, if you would, a little bit about why this campaign to help get Proposition 10 massively endorsed by the voters in this state is important, but also what a team that you've put in the field nationwide, but notably quite a few of them here, are doing to help mount and make this campaign successful, sir.
Yeah, these propositions in Texas and the Republican primary, they don't have the force of law, so this doesn't become part of our Constitution or a statute, but it essentially is a way for Republican voters in Texas to tell the legislature and our Republican officials, this is what we want. And it has a force of will, if you will, instead of force of law. And so if we can win this thing big, it says to our governor, who has taken some steps, as you talked about last night, in this direction, but to our legislature as well and our local government officials, this is the fight that we have to fight. And there's a vast majority of Americans that are for this. So when people go vote in our March 3rd primary, which early voting, as you mentioned last night, starts next week on the 17th, it's very important in Texas that you go all the way down the ballot, all through all the local races. Don't just go in and vote in the Senate race and the AG race. Go all the way down and then go through all 10 propositions. And frankly, I don't even care if you skip the other 9. Just make sure you get to Prop 10 and you vote for Prop 10. We need a 70, even 80% victory on this so that it creates momentum and they know that we know this is the fight for our generation. So it's a momentum builder, and it raises awareness of the challenge that we face. And then our Constitution coaches, as you mentioned earlier, we started as a youth leadership program and youth training, and it became, we need to train all Americans. We realized that we're now 3 generations in to not teaching civics or the Constitution. And so that's what we do with our Constitution Coach program, and it mobilizes people. They don't just sit in a room and study the Constitution. They study it, we have these classes, and then they have action items to go out in their community and do something. And so we've made this a top priority to win this thing big. And then after March 3rd, take that as the marching orders to go push our elected officials to do something about it.
Well, and I think the beauty of the Constitution coaches is that it's not confined to Texas, though. I recall you've got something like 8,000 of them in this state alone, which is tremendous. But 32,000 or so elsewhere as well.
32,000 across the country, yeah.
Our purpose, as you know, with this campaign is to help Governor Abbott, walk the walk on his efforts to designate the Muslim Brotherhood and prevent Sharia from coming to this state, enact this, but approve this this important proposition. But then, Rick, to make banning Sharia a voting issue, both in this state and across this country, in the fall elections. And your leadership in this regard and the amplification of it through your Constitution coaches is honestly one of the most exciting things about all of this, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. Could I just ask you one question about, as a guy who's, seriously steeped in the Constitution and its practice, there are those who argue that Sharia is a constitutionally protected practice because it is a religion. How would you respond to that contention, sir?
I was trying to remember who last night, I think it might have been Bill Federer again, that said, if MS-13 or Tren de Agua or one of these gangs suddenly said, our gang is a religion, would we then protect their actions? Would we then say, oh, well, beheading or burning people alive or whatever intimidation tactics they choose to use, that's just part of their religion, so we have to allow them to do it? Of course not. And there's a rich history in this country of decisions by the Supreme Court, of writings and speeches by Jefferson and other founding fathers about the limits that we would have. And so, Frank, let me say to my libertarian friends, because I lean libertarian in a lot of ways, and you do as well. And
we don't hold it against you. No, I really resist it, I have to say.
Well, I would say, let me say what people think is libertarian, right? They think that means we don't want too much authority, that we don't want government telling us what to do and micromanaging our lives. That's what I mean by that. But they're so wrong about thinking that nothing should be outlawed. We do not want pedophilia. We are not going to legalize child marriage in this country. We're not going to legalize the mutilization of children. We're not going to legalize the literally the permission to beat your wife, to make your wife submit and not be able to have freedoms. That is not okay in our country. And it is okay for us to say it's unconstitutional to allow for those things or try to protect those things. We have the right to outlaw certain things in our country. And I just, for those people that think anything should be protected under the guise of religion, that is a misplaced resistance they think it's resistance to tyranny or authority, and it's misplaced.
Well, and Rick, I'm sure as you were ticking off some of those egregious things that we will not accept in our country, you understand that Sharia not only tolerates all of them, it commands the practice. It's part of, the perfect man's emulation, perfect man being Muhammad, a man of unbelievably demonic character, I think it must be said. Rick, we have to leave it at that.
We can look at the realistic right now in real time, not just what we read in the old books. They're doing it in Europe. They're doing it in our. We're seeing it happen. I mean, we're fools to not learn from that, right?
We have to let you go. Rick Green, thank you for joining us. Come back soon, but delighted to be here with you always.
Thank you.
The rest of you will join us next time. Until then, go forth and multiply.
Freedom to speak your mind. Freedom to protest policies you don't like. Freedom to start a business. Freedom to own property. Freedom to vote. Freedom to flourish. It's easy to take these things for granted, but for many people around the world, freedom is merely a dream, and those who fight for it risk losing everything. Their reputations, their livelihoods, even their lives. Scan the QR code now or visit atlasnetwork.org/rev today to help freedom become a reality for people fighting back against authoritarianism. With your gift of just $19 a month, we'll send you an exclusive Atlas Network hat. Plus, we'll send the print edition of our Freedom's Champion magazine to your door. Atlas Network was founded to help pro-freedom organizations around the world develop, implement, and defend policies that foster freedom against tyranny. Visit atlasnetwork.org/rev or scan the QR code now to help us make freedom a reality for millions of people around the world. Donate $19 a month to receive your exclusive hat. Through every storm, every moment of uncertainty,
everybody needs to pray for Charlie Kirk right now.
Rev has stood strong.
We're not going to tolerate this stuff anymore.
Turn that anger into motivation to save this nation.
When we move together, there is power.
The cries of this widow will echo like a battle cry.
This is more than news. It's a movement.
This revolution of people taking their countries back.
A turning point. A chance to be part of something greater than yourself. Scan the QR code and stand with Rev. The story isn't over, and neither is your